Welcome, everyone, to the Ask Dr. Nima show live. This is our fourth Blab broadcast where Dr. Nima actually takes guests through his overview method. For those of you that are listening in as a podcast, just know that this is a visual show, so you won't be able to obviously see the chat that's going on, but you will hear everything that happens. And so just hang in there with us, those of us on podcast. Again, this is our fourth episode. Today's episode is going to be dissolving the stress of rejection, and we are very blessed to have a nervous but courageous guest on our show tonight. For those of you that don't know Dr. Nima, you can actually check him out at drnima.com. He is in the process of retiring chiropractor and mind-body wellness expert, obviously also known as the stress doctor, and rapper, edutainer, dedicating his life to helping as many people as possible on the planet change their lives one story at a time, as you're going to experience tonight. One thing to know about the overview method is it is an experience. And so for those of you that would like to share this with others, please bring them to the show. It's something that really, unless you do a live session with Nima or come to a workshop or watch the show, it's very hard to explain it because it's an experience and an actual event. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce our guest tonight, Rebekah. So if you want to call in, we'll throw you in the hot seat, and then I will be around in behind the scenes. If you guys need me, just throw something in the chat on the side, and I will be here for you the whole time.
Hello. Can you hear me?
So welcome, Rebekah. We can hear you. I'm going to sign off, but I will see you guys later. Have a great show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Rebekah, nice deep breath in.
Yeah. Huge.
Thanks for sharing your shitty first draft. Rejection's been something for you, something in your life that you've been running away from for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, running away is a really good way to describe it. Yeah.
Okay. So are you ready to face it and to dissolve the stress and find the absolute root cause of it, which you shared in your shitty first draft. I hope all of you guys were able to see it. Yeah, so basically, in a nutshell, you were raised in a very religious upbringing.
Yes.
Okay?
Very
so there was a
religious.
secret that you've been hiding all this time because of that. And tell us a little bit, just a 30-second kind of background on it, and then we're going to dive right in.
Okay. Quick background would be I had been dating my daughter's dad for about 2 years, and we were going to get married in August. And in April, we found out that I was pregnant. So 4 months before we were to be married, I found out that I was pregnant, which was a huge faux pas.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal. I mean, most people listening or watching would look at it and go, just give us a break. Like, big freaking deal, Rebekah.
Yeah.
Like, get over it. However, everything is perception. Everything is interpretation. And to you, in that time, it was a massive disappointment.
Yeah, my dad was a pastor. So, my whole life was in church, and people are looked down on and judged for what I did.
All right. Yeah. So to us, the connection is a little bit off. Can you just repeat that? And let's make sure that hopefully there's a good Wi-Fi around you. Go ahead. Say that again. Pastor and...
people that got pregnant before they got married, or even people that got divorced, were kind of looked down on, and that's just not what you do in our religion.
I can relate to that. So, all right. So let's run over your values one more time. Your highest values definitely is, number one, is your connection with your daughter, correct? Okay.
Yes,
so you're in a comfortable
absolutely.
position there, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
hold on. I'm trying to...
The more comfortable that you can get, and still you get, the better the connection is. Are we there?
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah,
no
we're
worries.
there. Sorry.
So your highest values, stay with me now. Number one would be Number one definitely would be your connection with daughter. And did you say your connection with God? What else? What are they? The things that make time stand still for you, your highest values.
Definitely my daughter, definitely Cassie, and personal growth and development, and relationship with God, which some people would call spirituality. Being honest and being
okay. So
real.
Relationship with God, being real, daughter, and personal development. And you're studying to be a what right now?
Licensed professional counselor. I'm
1 year away from being able to help people through difficult transitions. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have the highest version of Rebekah in mind. You're in the process of learning how to become a counselor, how to become an effective counselor. You are connected with daughter and God and your personal relationship with God, and personal growth, personal development. And what is your superpower, would you say? What's your superpower? Thing that you love most about yourself?
Thing I love is my ability to make people feel
Beautiful.
Comfortable and talk to me and
want
to talk to me.
Perfect. Write that down.
Yep.
And also you want to write down personal relationship with God. And so rejection is an interesting thing. For those of you first tuning in, and those on, replay or the podcast here that we're gonna put this out on. The overview method simply is a system of questions that helps you dissolve the stress behind what's causing it, so that you can then come up with a creative spark for your next move in creativity and service, really. It's clearing what's in front of you so that you can actually get to the next level. In this time frame, your feelings of rejection seem to be in the way. How would you say it's getting in the way? Give me an example over the past week that led you to want to reach out and we talk about this. Tell me exactly what happened that really encapsulates this whole story, and feel free to be, as honest as possible and real.
It's kind of embarrassing to an extent because it has to do with kids, and some people would say it
doesn't matter what people would say, but this is real for you. Perception.
Yeah. So last Wednesday, I was with a class by myself for the first time because I just started this job about a month ago. And as soon as they walked in the door, 3 of them were like, "Oh man, it's you." And if I had known that you were going to be here, I would have just went home. And then they just proceeded to be horrible.
So these are your new coworkers.
And children.
They're kids.
Children.
So how did they know you again?
They're children.
Oh, so this is your second.
My job.
Okay.
My
so
new
you're
job.
being rejected by the kids at your work that you're working with. Okay. Now, that's not embarrassing.
And I don't normally have an issue.
Okay. That's not embarrassing. I understand why you would see that to be embarrassing, but that would hurt me as well. If I walked in and then the kids that I'm working with turned around and they looked at me and they said, "Oh God, you again, you with that haircut, you," or whatever that reason, I would actually feel quite insulted, and I would have to turn within and really try to figure it out. So this is what I would love to help you with. Is it possible?
So that's what pushed it.
So that rejection button came up. So I want everybody to kind of think about a time where that rejection button was triggered and realize that we're going to uncover one of the early scenes where it really came out and clear that today. Okay? The one that have you dealt with this one before? You've done counseling, you've done do you want to read that part of the shitty first draft for us? Please.
Do I want to? Do you want me to read the whole thing or just part of it?
You can go ahead and read the whole thing about that.
All right. I found out on a Monday and I told the father immediately. Not keeping the baby was never an option. We talked about it. The original plan was that we would get married in August, but he knew my family and his grandparents and we knew that we'd have to get married sooner to save face. I wanted to just run away and elope because I did not want to face my parents.
Yep, that's cool. Let that out. Bring up that shame, bring up that humiliation. Feel it, baby. That's what we're going to... Sounds sadistic, but this is part of your healing.
We told my sister first, and she said that we should tell Mom and Dad, that we shouldn't run away from what was happening. So that Sunday, I called my dad and asked to meet with him, and I was so overwhelmed that I threw up on the way to tell him, because I knew that they would be disappointed and that yet again I would bring shame to the family and that he would not approve of me. For 8 months, I was depressed. I would literally lie in bed and cry. The weight of people not approving of me was so crushing. My ex-husband looked at me one day and said, "Why do you care so much about what other people think?" He knew, and he saw what it was doing to me, that it had destroyed me. But I only wanted to make other people happy and to have their approval. Fast forward 12 years, and here I am. My ex left me the week before our daughter was 2, and the last 12 years have brought a lot, and my life has changed drastically. I've been a full-time parent for the last 6 years because he hasn't seen her in that time. I believe that if this situation, my pregnancy, had been handled differently, I may still be married, as our marriage wouldn't have been based on a lie. And maybe I wouldn't struggle with my weight as much as I do. And maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't struggle with the guilt and shame that has plagued me. And maybe I wouldn't have lost myself somewhere in this body that has taken over. I stood in front of the mirror on Tuesday, looked myself in the eye, and the only thing that I could ask myself when I saw the face and body looking back at me was, "Where are you in there?" I've lost who I am trying to make everyone around me happy and make them love me and approve of me. As a single mom, I love my kid and I would die for her. But in some ways, I feel disconnected from her, like I'm not fully emotionally there and I want to be. I feel this way with people in general. I allow them into my life, but only so far. Because what if they see the real me and then they don't want to be around me anymore?
I want you guys to show her some massive love for what she just shared there. Tap that little hand. That was awesome. Very well done. It took a lot to say that, right? One of the reasons why this is so important is they've done studies is that when you can emote, when you can have expressive writing, it's actually part of your healing process. So those of you listening, the greatest gift that you can do if you're going through a difficult time right now is to sit out and write your feelings. That's why one of the first parts of the overview method, we get you to actually go in there and feel that. How does it feel getting out there? Even though it sucks, it feels horrible, but to get the unconscious to the conscious is the first step to healing. In there, buried.
It felt good to actually say it.
Say that again?
It felt good to actually just say it out
loud.
To
admit it. That's the first step. Now, once we've got it from the unconscious to the conscious, now we apply the overview method to clear it. This is where the magic happens. And I'm going to get you to, so it was last Tuesday or last week where you walked in and that rejection button was triggered, right? And we know where that big one was coming from, is that scene where you were driving to go and talk to your parents, right? Your dad about everything that happened. So I want you to go back there and I want you to kind of, let's write down a few shoulds in that scene. Okay? So I want you to pay attention. So looking at that scene where you're going and you tell your dad, what were the shoulds that you had at that time? And when you're looking back. So let me start you off. Let me help you out. My dad should have accepted me. accepted things. He should have loved me for who I am. Does that resonate with you? Does that kind of hurt when you say it or feel it? All right. Okay, Rebekah, I'm going to get you to write down, my dad should have loved me for who I am. Okay? You can resonate with that one, don't you? So long as you're holding on to that belief that goes against what happened in reality at that time, you're going to have the stress of rejection. You're going to keep running into it, and it's going to affect you. You're going to have this mask that doesn't allow you to be who you are, and it impedes every single area of your life. Okay? And I know what that's like.
Yeah.
So what else? He should have accepted me. He should have embraced the child with open arms. We shouldn't have kept it a secret. What do you think? If you're looking down and if you can wave a magic wand and everything was perfect about it, because you've never touched this subject before.
No, every time it comes up in counseling, I shut it down, and I have left like 2 counselors because I didn't want to talk about it anymore.
Thank you for being brave and going there. So let's look, what should have been different in that scene?
I need to get back in it, Nima. I'm out of it right now.
No worries.
I need to go back there.
Right back in that scene. So dad should have accepted me for who I am. What else should have been different? I shouldn't have gotten pregnant before marriage. Are you judging yourself on that a little bit? Can you be honest?
It's hard for me to say that. Yes, at that time, yes, that is exactly how I felt.
Please write
this
that
should
down.
not be happening to me.
This should not be happening to me. Write that down. Perfect. Cool. What else about that? They basically should have been more supportive, shouldn't they?
I think that's what I'm trying to think. I think that, yes, they should have been. They were my parents. I should have been able to tell them anything.
Say that, write that
without
down.
feeling like.
Without feeling inadequate or unaccepted or rejected. I should have been able to tell my parents anything without feeling rejected. Write that down. Perfect. Beautiful. So because of that, what's the interpretation that you're making? Is it, I'm not good enough? I'm a disappointment. I'm not lovable.
The biggest dark passenger that is always there. Inadequacy. Yet again, I'm not good enough.
So write that down. Inadequacy is one of the feelings you have. I'm not good enough. I want you to write that one down. Is it the fact that that happened and now I'm not worthy of love, or I'm evil? I'm a castaway. I'm going to hell.
Love.
I'm not, pardon me, say that again.
Not worthy of love is definitely one that kind of comes up, at least with my parents. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm not worthy of love. Put that in there. Awesome. Cool. Interesting. Good, good, good. Now, all right. So anything else? Any other feelings? So obviously you were disappointed. You were sad, but really the deepest feeling there was rejection.
Guilt and shame and rejection.
So write that down. Guilt, shame, and rejection. I want you to be, why am I getting her to write this down, folks? It's important because emotion labeling is a tool that we all have at our disposal that I would love to teach teenagers. When you identify and label your emotions, you have better opportunity to regulate them. Very important to know. So guilt, shame, rejection, very common. So what we're going to do now is apply the magical tool of overview, which I learned from Dr. John DeMartini about the duality, that in every positive, there's a negative, that there is a magnet, and you try to separate the magnet and get rid of the negative, and now you have 2 magnets, a positive and negative. And only by integrating the two, the duality, can we then dissolve that memory, the charge of that memory, and then heal from that perception. Are you ready to do it?
Ready.
Okay. So I want you to go into that scene as though you're there, and I want you to get uncomfortable. I want you to have your thing ready, your Kleenex ready as well. And I want you to tell me what feeling pops up, or interpretation. It doesn't matter. What feeling? I'm not good enough. I'm a bad person. Just tell me the first one that pops up, Rebekah.
All right. I'm going to be in the office when we're telling him, or do you want me to be in the scene before that?
In the office when you're telling him. Okay? Go in there and bring up that feeling. And what do you feel when you see him and you're there?
A lot of guilt.
Bring up the feeling of guilt. I want you to feel that in your body. This is where we get sadistic on you and actually get you to feel those negative emotions. Feel that. Where do you feel it in your body?
I feel, to be honest, I don't know how to, I'm trying to feel it somewhere.
Okay, good. Go into that moment. Feel that feeling of guilt. You feel it kind of in your chest? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel anywhere? Just wherever, just report, just check in and see, feel that guilt.
Head.
Head, good one. Feel that, sit with it for a moment. What's the opposite of guilty to you?
Free.
Into that moment, go into that moment. Feel that guilt. At the exact same moment, disconnect from that guilt, look around and give me no judgment on yourself. No mother, father, preacher, teacher, holy book. Look down, look at that moment. What was causing you to feel free in that moment?
I think that I was telling them because I had known for a week and it had been weighing on me, and I felt like it was in the moment that I felt guilty for saying it, I was also free.
Feel that freedom of telling the truth. It's exactly how you should feel after holding that burden and then telling the truth. Feel that freedom when it came out. Because imagine holding on to that for a week and then you just got real and said, Dad, I'm pregnant. I want you to feel that freedom. It was there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That discharge when it just kind of came out.
It was there.
It was there. I want you to feel it. Those of you paying attention or watching on replay, pay attention to how the physiology changes when you equilibrate the extreme positive and negative, and you turn into kind of like an enlightenment type of feeling. That dissolves the charge. Feel that freedom in that moment. Breathe it in and let that in. Feel it.
It was there.
Good. Let that in. And finally, it was just like, oh, a relief to tell him. All that 1 week of pent-up frustration, and then boom. Give me another negative emotion. Rejection.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Tell me. What do you feel? Feel that rejection. Let that in.
I didn't really feel.
Where do you?
I didn't feel rejection until my mom came in.
Okay. Okay, good. Bring up the rejection when mom came in. Feel that. Let that in. It's so important for you to actually go in and feel them rather than repressing them. This is the first step, is we go in there and actually experience that rejection so that you understand this is the feeling you're trying to run away from. Feel that. You're doing awesome.
She wouldn't look at me.
Good. Feel that rejection in that moment while she just couldn't look at you. Let that in. We're going to give you a minute for that one. It's one you haven't dealt with in how many years? 15 years? 20?
12.
No, 12 years. Good. Feel that. Let that rejection in there when mom wouldn't look at you. Bring in that pain. Feel that. You're extremely brave. Let that in. Feel that. Now, simultaneously, Rebekah, look carefully and look close or distant, real or virtual, wherever. Do not have any judgment on where you see it, but look where you found acceptance in that moment. Did you see it in Dad a little bit? Could you see any acceptance in Dad? Tell me about it. Describe it to me. Tell me the feeling. Where were you getting feelings of acceptance? Mom was rejecting you. Where were you getting acceptance?
Because he told her to hug me. He told her to.
Feel that acceptance. He said hug her. He insisted, didn't he? Even though he was in pain and shock. Feel that acceptance.
And I never saw that before.
Bring it in, baby. I want you to really bring that in. Give her some love, peeps. Give her some mad love for that realization. Just let it all in. Can you see his acceptance in that moment of rejection from your mom? Throughout all his pain, he insisted that, didn't he?
He still
let
loves
that
me.
In. Say that again.
He still loved me.
Feel that acceptance in that moment of rejection. Feel it. Way to go. Amazing. Great insights, darling. You're a rock star. Good job. It was there, wasn't it? Look carefully as well. Spirituality is a high value for you. Did you see any acceptance from a God or Jesus or higher self in that moment? Tell the truth.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Describe it to me.
I never questioned that part. I think that's the part that's, I never questioned that. I knew that I didn't feel that.
Did you notice in that moment where you kind of had that confrontation with your parents about it, did your relationship or awareness of God change in anything?
Maybe not.
In that moment.
I don't know if it was in that scene. Subconsciously, yes. Nima, I would say yes. Subconsciously, it did.
Tell me how.
I believe that I recognized in that moment, subconsciously,
tell me, baby. You got this.
My parents were really more worried about what other people would think than what God knew. And God had already forgiven me, but they were judging me. And in that moment, subconsciously, I began the process of realizing that religion was not it, that it was a relationship with God that that was most important. And that began my disenchantment with religion.
And more into your personal relationship.
Yeah.
Can you see at that moment as well of rejection, it was the forcing for you to level up in your relationship with God.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it wasn't about a church. It wasn't about an institution. It was actually a deep soul connection that was one-on-one.
And the funny thing is, Nima, I didn't remember that until just now, but Dad told me that I would have to apologize in front of the church for getting pregnant. And I remember in that moment saying, I don't owe any person an apology because God's already forgiven me.
Sit with that one for a moment. Woo! Feel that acceptance. You had that awareness in that moment of your personal relationship with God.
I did, and
that it wasn't because your dad is a pastor, so it was all church based and what everybody thinks based, which is normal for him to think as a freaking pastor. Holy crap. He's got a flock. He's got a tribe that he's got to worry about, right?
Yeah.
when his own daughter, all of a sudden, it doesn't kind of live according to what he's preaching.
Yeah.
It's completely all reflecting on him, right?
Yeah.
Can you see why at that time, that they should have been rejecting of that scenario for them?
Yeah.
If they were accepting of you and what you did at that time, what would it have costed them?
Their church, their reputation, who they are.
Would that have potentially jeopardized his career?
To an extent, yes.
All right, so Rebekah, let's look. What were the benefits? What were the benefits of you getting pregnant? This is an obvious one. Let's just start there. Let's just start with the obvious.
Cassie. Like that's, I don't even have to say anything else. Like that's.
Really change that, would you? I don't really have to go back there. That's your number one, right? If it didn't happen exactly that way with that specific sperm in that moment,
oh,
would you have the daughter that you have and that relationship and that guiding light, so to speak? What was the benefit of that painful rejection that you felt in that moment? What did it force you to do? Let's look at the rejection itself, because let's assume that negative emotions aren't lethal.
I'm still alive.
Okay, and what's been the benefit of you enduring that rejection in that time, that extreme? Because it's pretty extreme, right? It's like you've just completely shamed the church.
Yeah.
So what was the benefit of you experiencing that? Because I've worked with a lot of people who've been excommunicated from churches and stuff like that too. What was the benefit?
One of the best benefits for me was being able to help someone like 2 years ago going through the same exact thing. I was able to reach out to her and say, I've been there and it happened to me and you're going to live. It's not going to be easy, but you're going to make it.
How did that feel to be able to go and help transform her based on her stress and uplift her during a dark time? How did that make you feel?
Really good. Kind of made it worth it, to be honest.
Sit with that one for a moment. Give her some love, peeps. That is pretty huge. Can you see, and how did that scene of rejection, that moment of rejection, those feelings of rejection, what did it force you to do? How did you respond? Go back to that moment. How did you respond to that?
I just felt crushed in that moment, to be honest.
You did. And what did you do in response to feeling crushed? One of the things is you broke. Go ahead.
I feel like that my mom was like the one person that I had never felt that feeling from before. And
what did it force you to do when you felt that rejection from your mother for the very first time?
I didn't want to feel that emotion.
Did you start to, and what skills did you acquire to be able to avoid feeling that has served you?
I do know that a positive thing that has come out of that is that I don't want my daughter to feel that way.
Can you see that you have worked extra hard to make sure that your daughter feels embraced?
And like, I want her to feel like she can talk to me about anything, and I...
Sit with that one for a moment. Can you see that because of the fact that you experienced rejection from your mother, you're working extra hard to create space for her to feel universally accepted?
Yeah.
No matter what.
No.
She can tell you the worst of the worst.
Yes, absolutely.
And who does she come to first when the shit hits the fan? Sit with that one for a moment. Why do you think that is?
Well, because she knows.
She knows that you're not going to judge her.
Yeah, and she knows that I'll tell the truth, and that if she's done something wrong, we call it out and we figure out a way to work on it.
If you hadn't experienced the pain in that moment of rejection, what would be the drawback to your relationship with your daughter?
I would be my parents.
Well done. Now, what was the benefit? Let's look at from your mother's perspective. What was the benefit? Why should your mother have just not wanted to look at you at that time? Look from her values, her priorities, her expectations.
The church was her number one priority, like the church and what people thought about us.
Can you see that she had made that about her?
It was about her. It wasn't about me at all. And maybe what hurts too.
Say that again. That hurts?
I said, yeah. I think that's what hurts the most is
Why
that she
should she have made it about her at that time? At that moment, when the church is your highest priority, and what other people think in the community, and then all of a sudden, your daughter, in her perception, violates one of the regulations of the church.
Yeah, she should have been disappointed in me. If that's your highest value and that's what you live, the rules that you live by, then yeah, she should have been disappointed in me and not wanted to be around me.
Take a look at her when she can't look at you. Okay, look at that in that moment. Okay, and I want you to see the pain in her eyes of not being able to look at you. What does it actually mean when she's not able to look at you? If it was pure hatred and disgust and there wasn't any love there, she'd be able to just look right at you. Tell me what you see when you see that.
At me, maybe she was mad at Wes. Maybe it really wasn't about me at all.
Could you see that maybe she was also wanting somebody else for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sit with that one for a moment. Did she want somebody else for you before this whole thing went down?
Yeah, she didn't want me to be with him.
So can you look at that moment, and once you see her reaction, what is she actually saying with her reaction of not being able to look at you?
You're stuck with this piece of crap, then I know that you deserve better.
Say that again. Is that not the ultimate acceptance and validation? Well done. Can you see how you turned around and made it about your own inadequacy in that moment?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I did.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
So how should she have responded in that time, knowing how her highest values, the fact that she didn't like your boyfriend at the time, and then she just realized, oh shit, we're now stuck with this guy.
Yeah.
So what insights have you discovered about that scene? Let's get back on it.
I think that at this point that I'm at, my mom had the right response. If I were in her shoes at that time, that's the response that I would have had.
Can you see that you didn't have rejection without acceptance simultaneously?
Yes. And that's the first time that I've ever looked at that scene. And in the same scene where my mom rejected me, my dad, who I've most of my life felt like has disapproved of me, I actually felt approval from him in that scene.
In that scene? Is that not weird?
In that scene.
Freaky?
Yeah, that's craziness. Yeah.
So what was the benefit of you experiencing that kind of rejection, that deep-seated rejection at that time?
Again, so I would say that subconsciously it began my journey towards a relationship with God rather than religion and worried about what people think, because that was my life. I spent my whole life trying to please a church member or this person or that person. And subconsciously.
So did it break you free from the subordination of that church?
Yes. And it also began breaking the subordination to my parents. Even at 22 years old, I was still under my dad's thumb.
Amazing. And that broke you free of that, so you can start your life.
Not completely, because I still had remnants of it, but it was the beginning. It was the foundation. If that event had not happened.
Now, that's incredible. And so you have a new relationship with God. What was the benefit of you actually experiencing rejection?
I was able to help. I have been able to help other people that are experiencing rejection or have experienced it.
How has that served in your counseling, in your desire to be a counselor and help others?
That's why I wanted to be a counselor. Because I know how I felt in that moment, and I didn't want anybody else to feel that way. Or I wanted them to know that there was hope and that your life can still go on and you can still be free, even though other people
don't accept you. Can you see you had the ultimate non-acceptance that you survived? And it brought you
absolutely.
And it brought you and your daughter stronger together.
Yeah.
She lives in a space where she comes to mom first when it all hits the fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and I never felt like that with my own mom. Yeah.
Would you be able to give that to your daughter if you didn't experience it yourself?
No, because I would have been the same parent that my parents were if that event had never happened.
Now, throughout your life, what's been the benefit of you fearing rejection? Let's look at some of the benefits. I know you're resenting it, but when you fear other people's opinions, there's got to be some positives to it too. Let's look at some of the positives of you actually fearing rejection. What does it force us to do when we are fearing rejection or seeking approval? What is that? And look at your values and look at your superpowers. What was your superpower again?
Making others feel comfortable.
How did your fear of rejection and your desire for approval serve in making others feel comfortable?
Well, honestly, it seeking approval and fear of rejection. You learn how to read people really, really well.
And how did that serve you as a counselor?
Yeah.
Would you be able to have those skills if you didn't have this dark passenger of needing approval?
No.
How does your need for approval serve in your superpower of making others feel comfortable?
It's the foundation of it.
Sit with that one for a moment.
I kind of thought that was a bad thing, Nima. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
You can embrace that darkness, that dark side of you, which is the need for approval. You don't just all of a sudden need everyone's approval. It has a paradoxical effect. What ends up happening is we can then, once we embrace that, we can then pull it out and use it at any given moment and put it in our pocket when necessary. Because it's not a horrible thing to need approval. The fact that I love people's approval is what keeps me hustling to make people feel better. See, I'm working right now so that I get your approval.
Well, you have it.
Well, cool. That's great. But the thing is that it's when it goes to a point of a lack of control, a lack of consciousness, when to use it.
Cakes for people. I draw things for people.
And how does that make them feel when you do all of those things?
Good.
Right.
And that's why I do it, because it does make them feel good, but it makes me feel good too.
Right. Can you see that moment of rejection from mom and receive rejection from your parents and the church force you into the superpower of making others feel good, which in turn serves you?
Yeah.
And by owning it as a superpower, it ceases to have control over you, this fear of rejection. This need for approval that you think has been part of your darkness and you're just, oh my God, I'm so horrible about that, is actually part of your light.
It is. And I never saw it that way. I always thought that being able to read people, both positive and negative, was kind of a bad thing sometimes. Because you see people for who they are. It's not always pretty.
Right. The delusion is it should always be positive.
And I fight against that, yes.
Right. But once you can embrace the fact that we are two-sided beings, then you stop judging things and you're able to embrace what is. The problem happens not with the needing of approval, is when you're judging yourself for it. Because there's an arena for it. When I work each and every day with each client, they can tell that I'm working my ass off for them. They paid a lot of money. They have invested their time, their effort, their energy. Damn right I want their approval. Damn right I want them to tell other people good things about me.
Yeah.
My business functions and grows because of people's approval. However, it's about directing where you're looking for the approval. This is all about directing people to look. Is it directing you to where you are looking for approval and realizing that at any given moment, you can't get approval from everyone?
No.
So have you noticed sometimes that you like made, your daughter's favorite dish because you wanted her approval? Or you did something? Okay, you don't cook, or you took her somewhere that you knew that she would appreciate because you wanted her approval.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every weekend. Yes. All
Perfect.
the time.
And then There are times where you make a decision in your perception for her highest good, but you know that it's not actually going to be approved of by her.
Yes, that happens too.
Right. Can you see that you get approval and disapproval?
Yes.
Rejection and acceptance. But at any given moment, you're going to be accepted or you're going to be rejected depending on what?
It's that other person's highest values.
At that moment in time.
Yes.
So is it you that's getting rejected?
No.
What's getting rejected at that moment in time?
Whatever I'm doing or saying that is against that person's highest values.
Interesting. Now,
do we sing hallelujah now? Hallelujah.
So
yeah,
when you look at that scene before, when you were 22, the one you haven't been going there for, what's stopping you from loving that scene for what it is? Look at all of the shoulds that you wrote in that scene about dad and mom and yourself. Read them out and tell me.
I should have been able to tell them anything without feeling rejected, which is not true because my highest values
So
are
what was
different
that first
than
one
theirs
again?
are.
Read it out. You just kind of cut off there.
I should have been able to tell them anything without
Reject.
feeling rejected.
You will still believe that to be true at that time.
Yeah. No, because we had different values.
And the fact that they rejected you for that, what was the benefit?
I became the person that I am today.
You got a relationship with God. That's different. Breaking the subordination of the organized religion into the personal relationship. You became a...
Yep. I have a better relationship.
Because you provide a safe space for her to tell you anything.
Yep. It put me on my journey for personal growth and development. It made me realize that there are other people going through exactly what what I went through, and that I can help them because I survived it.
Would you
and they can survive it too.
Look at the highest version of yourself helping people as a counselor? Would you be that highest version if you didn't go through that massive rejection?
No.
What would you change
not.
about that scene from mom and dad? What's stopping you from loving
Nothing.
Mom and dad and yourself in that scene for exactly who you were and are and they were? When you look at that,
Nothing
do you still
right
have
now.
any guilt or shame?
No.
Beautiful. Interesting, huh? 12-year emotional charge. You look different.
I can look at my mom in that scene and not see what I saw before. A mom that loves me and wanted the best for me.
You get it. Now, I'm just going to get you to sit with that just for a moment as a great insight. Now, I want you to go, when you have a second now, just let that process. What do you have to say to your mom right now? And dad?
Thanks for loving me.
These are tears of gratitude and love, aren't they? There's no guilt. There's no shame. There's no, I'm not good enough. This is pure, absolute, unconditional love. I can feel it. Can you guys all feel it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. So now we're going to get you to scene last week with the kids. And that feeling of rejection looks a little different, I know, but I want you to go into that moment and feel the rejection and tell me simultaneously, you can't experience that rejection without being supported and accepted. Who was accepting you simultaneously in that moment?
Three or four of the other kids. Patrick came and gave me a hug like 2 or 3 times because he knew that something was
Bring up that feeling of acceptance. Interesting, huh? Kids and animals are like that. Right? Have you noticed? Kids and animals, they just get it. Something's up. You know what I mean? When kids and animals, they look at you and you just all of a sudden look and they're just coming up and they're playing that other side. The side of, you know, universal love, grand organizing designer, God, whatever that is, that your relationship is not just pleasure and support without pain. And rejection is actually the integration of the two together. Can you see you were being supported at that same time? Now, in that moment of walking in, when they rejected you and they say, oh, not her again, and bring up that feeling of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love.
It's not
Who
there.
was making you feel worthy of love in that moment?
Can I be
part of that?
person?
Yeah, absolutely. You can come from internal. Did you see it there? Did you have it? What did your inner voice say at that time?
That what they were saying was not true. I knew that what they were saying was not true.
See that inner voice in that moment that you actually had that overriding what was going on?
Yes, I did. And the other kids didn't say it.
Where did you feel it in that exact moment?
I felt it from 2 of the kids that don't say anything. They don't really listen very well. But Patrick hugged me, and then his brother just smiled at me. He just
kind of knew it was there.
Like, he knew.
Feel that.
And it was there.
This is the awareness that John DeMartini has taught me that has changed my life, is that at any given moment, I'm never going to be supported without challenged. I'm never going to be challenged without supported. We constantly seek the one side, but the other side is there. What's the benefit of you experiencing the two sides at that moment, the support and the challenge? Why was it important for you to get that rejection? Well, first of all, why should they have rejected you at that time?
Because I was calling them out on their crap.
Had you been constantly calling them out and giving them a tough time? Making things, were you in their way according to their perspective?
Yes. Yes.
How?
I was. Because I knew that they could be better than what they were trying to do.
Can you see when an adult or a parent or whatever pushes a kid to think that they're better, they turn around and interpret it as rejection?
Yes. Oh, I wonder who felt that an hour ago.
Can you see at that moment they were responding to feelings of rejection from you? Can you?
And I think that I actually recognized it because later on I told them that I was proud of them. So I think that subconsciously I recognized that that's what they were pushing
against the fact that they felt unworthy and not good enough towards you. So can you see how their rejection of you was solely based on their perception of your rejection on them?
Yes.
Sit it down for a moment.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is that people aren't really rejecting us. It's when this is what I've noticed in my dynamic with my parents, is that they feel that I'm saying they're not good parents. I'm feeling that they're saying I'm not good enough. So we both have this rejection projection. I just made that up. We're writing that rejection projection happens where I don't like you because I think you don't like me. It's all about what your perception is of me. So those kids were only reacting to what they perceive your rejection of them.
Yeah.
So what were they rejecting in that moment?
My rejection. I mean, to an extent.
It wasn't about you and your inadequacy, was it? Here she is. Rebekah comes in with a new job. She's walking in. She's already been there a week, working with kids, wanting to be liked. And then all of a sudden, these, unconscious of the fact that she's pushing a bunch of kids who perceive that, oh, she's in my way. She's not liking me. She doesn't accept me for who I am. All of a sudden you walk in, there's that woman that doesn't accept me for who I am, not you again.
Yeah. I could totally see that. Interesting.
So what was the benefit of you feeling that rejection? How did you respond to it? You just said it. You got love from other people, but what did you do as a response to that rejection?
Told Nima that I would go on the show and talk about rejection.
Okay, that's cool. But
I was angry because it pushed.
And then how did you respond to that anger? What did it force you to do in that moment? What does rejection force us to do? How did you respond to those kids after?
I recognized that I was being negative, and then
so you went up and said what to them? I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I did. I said, thanks for whatever they did right, and I tried to focus on something that was positive rather than negative.
So when somebody rejects you, what are they actually doing and saying? What's the benefit of rejection? What feedback does it give you? What is it saying? Because you just discovered what their rejection forced you to do.
It forces me to think, how am I coming across to that person?
Forces you to get conscious of another person's perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you didn't have rejection, would you be able to be so sensitive to the values and needs of other people to serve them?
No, because I'm an extreme overthinker, and if everyone approved all the time, I would never be better. I would never have to level up. I would never have to check myself.
Rejection is the ultimate feedback mechanism that somebody gives you that you're either supporting or challenging their values. You can choose to stay conscious of their values and then adjust accordingly, or you can say whatever. And there's times where you say whatever. But there's a time to pay attention with like a client. Like if a client is giving me negative feedback, i.e. criticism, i.e. rejection, then I have a choice that I need to make. I got to get conscious and go, what is this person's needs and how can I fill them? But without that negative feedback or rejection, would I be able to make that adjustment? Without that negative feedback or that rejection, would I be able to make that adjustment?
No. No, absolutely not.
Let's just wait for her to jump back on. You guys having a good time? Send me some hearts. Let me know if you got some insights from that. Any insights that you're getting from this overview? It's very interesting, isn't it? Every time I do an overview on one of you guys, it really helps me level up in myself. The coolest thing, the coolest gift of this work is that how much you grow whenever you work on somebody. And I've learned so much about human behavior, about myself, just taking people through this process. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching this to others. There's a group of people coming from all over the world this weekend, learning how to do this this method. People from all over.
It's me again.
Yes. I was just commenting of how much I learn whenever I take somebody through an overview, how much I learn about myself. And so this is such a wise thing for anybody who's on the path of helping serve other people, to learn how to take another human being through this process and guide them into unconditional love and gratitude, and finding a hidden order in a chaotic event like the one that you went through at the age of 22, and then a little mini one last week there with the kids.
Yeah.
What's the benefit of you look at that thing. What's the benefit of them rejecting you, those little kids? Let's take your hurt and your inadequacy out of it. Let's assume that when they say that, it's not about your inadequacy. What's the benefit of rejection?
It helps me. I'm just going to say what at first came to my brain. It helps me to better help them.
Sit with that one for a moment. Say that again.
It helps me to better help them. When I take myself out of it.
Right. And this is the key. All right. You're about to say the magic. You're about to say the magic elixir here. The magic insight of this entire session is about to be said, is about to be revealed based on what you're about to say. When I take myself out of it, then
it's about them and not me.
Translate that into mom and dad. Translate that into people in the church. Translate that into client. Translate that into daughter. Translate that into people you work with. Translate that into person walking down the street and making a comment. What does rejection actually mean?
It means it means one of two things for me.
Mm-hmm.
That they're hurting, and that I need to be more responsive to them because how I'm coming across is not working.
It's a feedback mechanism, isn't it? Go ahead, finish, sweetie.
I don't know. I think seeing it as a feedback mechanism. It's funny because I always say to the kids, I'll say, check yourself before you wreck yourself. So when rejection happens, check yourself. Because if you don't, you'll wreck yourself by taking it internally and making it about you and not about them.
Amazing, guys. Give her some love. That was the insight of the overview. And that, my friends, is just an incredible insight that every single human being walking on planet Earth can benefit from. And that the take-home point here is that if only we didn't interpret it as I'm not enough, then it's becomes an opportunity to serve.
Yeah.
Somebody's in pain, and I'm making it about my inadequacy. And why did you? Because you had an unresolved thing at 22 that you made about you as well. And you can spend years in depression, years in counseling, not really getting that connection.
Yes. Been there. Done that.
Yes. So I have to say, I am so utterly grateful that you were able to get real. And when you kind of read that shitty first draft over again, and you look at it right now, and you think about that.
Delusions. Just ridiculousness.
Do you have any shame or feelings of rejection when you look at those two scenes now?
No.
This is how we dissolve the stress of rejection. Just by putting on a different lens, asking a whole new series of questions, and then looking and exposing the truth.
The true truth, not our perceived truth.
Actuality, not my version of reality.
Yeah.
And we all have it, and we all go to a new level of it. I'm grateful for this type of work because of the fact that I get to express my truth in its purest form when I'm doing these sessions. And it's a thing that I've experienced a lot of rejection for, especially initially from my family. Now they're not as resistant. They're more supportive, and they're like, you can do it. Whereas before they're like, are you crazy? You're not a counselor or a psychologist. And so there's hurdles that we all have to level up through in feelings of self-rejection, inadequacy. But by applying this work, you can actually clear what's in the path and help yourself level up. And here's the thing. If you don't, your health will suffer. If you don't do the work, you will have this fight or flight state, and your body will start to exhibit signs and symptoms and disease, and people are going to look on the outside and help me. What do I take for that? What do I take for the anxiety? Well, the anxiety is simply shame, guilt, rejection, betrayal, all of those things, one on top of another. But if we learn how to peel it back and we continue that journey down the rabbit hole, you can get to the point where you now have a clarity of purpose, a clarity of vision, a connection to who you are. Look at your face. You look completely different.
Yeah, when you say that you wanted to take a pill, I'm just going to be honest. Like before this, right here, I was freaked out. And I was like, oh, I have a happy pill in the cupboard. But I did not want to take it because I knew that I would get here. And that this is how I would feel when I did the work. So
it's my vision to teach people how to do the work on themselves. And we do have another week to go for anybody who is ready. There is a kind of a 2-for-1 offer that I have where I am actually teaching you how to take this on your own and learn how to do this. It's difficult. It's challenging. However, with the right tools, with the right guidance, you basically will be a rock star at being able to clear out your own misperceptions.
yes.
And and definitely if you just kind of if you go there and you are willing to get uncomfortable, see how uncomfortable you were in the first half of this session.
Yes.
And when you're looking now at those scenes, how do you feel?
Grateful and thankful.
Grateful. Perfect. And so for those of you who are wanting to, how many of you got, tap that, the little high fives or high tens next to me. How many of you are actually interested in learning how to take yourself through this, or perhaps one day, like Rebekah, want to learn how to take other people through a process like this to get them to their truth. We have a workshop coming up in Vancouver. Please message directly. Join the Overview Method discussion group if you're not a part of it. And we have few seats remaining with people who are already registering for the end of May and flying from all over North America. Actually, we've got people from New York and Calgary coming into Vancouver, beautiful Vancouver, for a weekend to come and delve deep into this method and struggle with it and work as a group and become a new family. She does look a lot lighter, a lot brighter. Look at your face. It's absolutely radiant. Any guilt, any shame, any rejection.
No.
Clear. So what is rejection?
Feedback. It's not about me, but it may be about me, but it's not personal.
Right. It is the perception at that time that you're challenging that person's highest values. You're in the way in their perception. So when you're in my way, if I'm in your way, Rebekah, then I expect you to reject me.
Yeah.
But then I have two choices. Either turn around and say, oh, I'm just inadequate and I'm not worthy of love. Or I can go back and go, whoa, 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 she's giving me feedback. If she's a client, if she's somebody that, it would be to my highest values, yes, to be able to get approval of, then I can do that if I choose, because of my awareness of what your values are. And my say, okay, well, clearly, according to their values, I'm not fitting the bill. So how can I make things work? And you can take a complaint or a criticism / rejection and turn it into a win, the same way you did with those kids.
Yeah.
Were they rejecting you and you told them how proud you were of them?
No.
So it wasn't about you.
Newsflash.
Well done. So I am just grateful for those of you who've been following. And this little weekly thing, this is our 4th one. It's getting bigger and bigger. Are there any questions? I'm just going to say goodbye to Rebekah. Is there any parting words, things that you would like to say? Any thank yous? Anything that you'd like to say as a kind of a parting goodbye?
I would not have done this if I did not believe that it worked. As somebody that has been studying counseling for 3 years, I've actually questioned whether what I'm studying is real and what I should be doing, because I know that people can fix it. It's been what, an hour and a half or so? And they don't have to waste money 12 weeks, 16 weeks, a year, 2 years, 3 years. If you want to get real and you're ready to get through it, you can do it. And it doesn't have to take a long time. So thank you, Nima, for what you do. Because I believe in it, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be sitting right here.
I'm grateful for you for, expanding yourself and coming and joining us. And I can't wait to meet you in person one day, and to one day, as you keep developing and you start kind of doing your thing, I can see you helping a lot of people with this.
Thank you.
Making it a part of your practice.
Yes, absolutely.
That sets you apart from all the other people that you're learning from.
Yes. So thank you. And anyone that's watching, it's worth it to walk away, to come into it feeling guilt and just terrified, and something that I've run away from for 12 years, and to fix it in an hour and a half and be thankful and love my parents and see them in a totally different way is priceless. Priceless. You cannot put a price on finding peace with your past and realizing that it made you who you are. And you wouldn't change a thing about it.
Oh, God bless you, my dear.
Thank you, Nima.
Thank you so much. Guys, give some freaking mad love, everybody. That's just amazing. Everybody that was an incredible, raw, authentic. This is # better than Netflix. I hope you guys will share this with the peeps in your circles. Those of you listening on podcast and replay, reach out if you have any questions. Join the Overview Method discussion group. There is help. My plan is to bring this message to those who need it worldwide, so you don't have to waste time and you can get to the heart of it and clear it quickly. If you want to do a free little consult to see if you're ready for something that's been has been holding you back, a rejection, something that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you just can't let go of. It takes minutes. And just by applying these tools, you see how it works kind of on a one-on-one. In the beginning, it's useful to have somebody guide you through it before you start to master this for yourself. It's something I use each and every day. It's got me to where I am, and I continue as I go through my challenging transition from having a real job with a real office into the virtual world, the scary virtual world of transformation, where it's noisy and there's a lot of people out there. This is exactly the tool that I have been using to get myself through some really difficult challenges. So I'm so grateful to be able to share it with all of you guys. So I'm going to say goodbye to Rebekah and stay for some Q&A if you want to stick around. So thank you, Rebekah.